Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another very exciting Star Wars video. After nearly 42 years, Lucasfilm just dropped a bombshell about Return of the Jedi which is blowing fans' minds. One of the most famous posters for episode 6 is this one. Released as a teaser for the movie, we see the iconic hand of what we assumed was Luke Skywalker, holding his lightsaber up in the air against a starry background. The poster was created by artist Tim Reamer. But did you know the hands holding the lightsaber don't actually belong to Luke? They're not Mark Hamill's hands, they're George Lucas's hands. The maker himself is holding the lightsaber. This shocking revelation came from Lucasfilm art manager Phil Szostak. And while he himself didn't directly work on Return of the Jedi, it's a bit of inside knowledge at Lucasfilm which he just shared. And Star Wars fans have been reacting in a very surprised way. Most didn't know about this. But remember, George literally saw himself as Luke. When he was first mapping out Star Wars and writing the first drafts, they were called The Adventures of Luke Starkiller. And Luke was George's self-insert. It's the character he resonated with most. I mean, even in the name, Lucas, Luke. In a way, the hero's journey as autobiography. Of course, it was made sci-fi and space opera and set in a galaxy far, far away, but it was nonetheless the story of the dreamer from a small town, or in the case of Star Wars, the dreaming farm boy from Tatooine. On numerous occasions, Lucas has admitted he identifies with Luke's desire to escape mundane life, his dreams of big adventures, the pure craving to become Joseph Campbell's hero with 1,000 faces. And for Lucas, Star Wars was more than just a story. It was very personal, and by the end of the original trilogy, when you really think about it, he'd undergone his own personal hero's journey. His difficult path into filmmaking, battling studio systems, and making Star Wars against all the odds. And so for the final installment of his trilogy, Return of the Jedi, it's rather fitting that he's the one holding the lightsaber in the poster. This design evokes the legendary King Arthur pulling Excalibur from the stone. A deliberate parallel reinforcing the mythic tone of the Star Wars saga. And for very good reason, this artwork is considered one of the most memorable teaser posters in all of film history. It was meant to build anticipation without showing specific characters or plot. And here's another fun fact. The original title of Return of the Jedi was Revenge of the Jedi, but it was changed by George when he realized the Jedi don't get revenge. That is an attribute of the Sith, which is why he repurposed Revenge for Episode 3 in 2005.
Will you be making any more of the Star Wars films together?
One more.
We do one more, right. The name of it is
The Revenge of the Jedi.
We finish off the trilogy, then we go back 20 years, and we do the story of young Darth Vader and the young Alec Guinness character.
But the Jedi are portrayed as selfless, disciplined, and guided by the light side of the Force. Revenge is a path to the dark side, closely linked to anger and hatred, qualities the Jedi are meant to resist. And so it became Return of the Jedi. George had long mapped out the way he wanted the movie to end, and he was adamant in his conversations with Richard Marquand that the message of redemption and hope had to be on full display. So even though it's often described as being darker in tone than Empire, Return of the Jedi delivers on a happy ending. Very different to the way Episode 5 ended with our heroes having lost. And did you know, 2 years before Jedi came out, Lucas said something truly amazing about the way he wanted the last installment of the trilogy to go. Here's what he said. The whole concept of the original film is that Luke redeems his father. The good father, bad father, who the good son will turn back into the good. The whole emotion I'm trying to get at the end is for you to feel really uplifted, emotionally and spiritually, and just feel good about life. That would be the greatest thing we could possibly do. And this encompasses what I love most about George, what I love about the heart of this franchise, how his ultimate goal with the movie, and I guess the entire trilogy, was to give the audience hope, to give kids hope, learn important lessons about resilience, never giving up, family, friendships, forgiveness, and do it in a way that makes you feel like you can be the hero of your story. It's why the original Star Wars films still resonate cross-generationally to this day. They're timeless movies with timeless archetypes. And a crazy thing to consider in retrospect is had George gone for Revenge of the Jedi, the message of the film would have been diminished. You know, George Lucas receives a lot of criticism, but whether you're talking about the original trilogy or the prequels, he was never ambiguous with his messaging. And I'm so glad George realized the truth about revenge and why it's so incompatible with Jedi philosophy. Because revenge, much like the way of the Sith, is a heavy burden that consumes you. Look at the way Maul destroyed himself in pursuit of Kenobi. As Confucius once said, before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves. A Jedi would destroy himself in the process. The greatest form of revenge is your own growth, your own success.
Look what I have risen above.
In the case of Jedi, it was about redemption over revenge. The return of the Jedi, balance in the Force being restored, the return of Anakin. People often think it's about Luke, but Luke was just the catalyst for Anakin's redemption. Tied to this is the notion that this is a movie about compassion and the power of compassion. Luke refuses to kill his dad, one of the 2 most evil men in the galaxy. Even when provoked, instead of giving in to hate, he throws his lightsaber and tells Palpatine, "I am a Jedi, like my father before me." He was the only person who could still see the good in Anakin, and Vader then overthrows Palpatine because he sees Luke's act of love. Luke doesn't win by force, but by mercy, compassion, and love. And Lucas's point, if you listen to his commentary about this, is that true heroism isn't about defeating your enemies. It's about saving the ones who have the potential to change. No matter how many awful things Anakin did, he was not too far gone, and Luke recognized that. He saw the suffering Anakin had been through. When he tells Vader that Anakin is the name of his former self, he's only just forgotten who that person was. He was giving him an olive branch, reaching out his hand and saying, "It's not too late to turn things around. You can walk away from this. The Emperor is the real evil one. He's the one keeping you as prisoner." And when you're talking about the 1980s, this ran counter to the message of most action films at the time. And it's part of what makes Star Wars really stand out. It's a soap opera set in space. It's about fathers and sons. It was created to be a modern myth, and Return of the Jedi completes the mythic cycle. Luke faces the same temptations Anakin did, but he chooses a different path. As soon as he learnt at the end of Episode 5 that Vader was his father, his biggest fear became going down the same route. A part of him thought he was destined to become a Sith. This intergenerational conflict is about breaking cycles. Lucas's point is that the next generation can heal the failures of the past. They're not predestined to be bound by them. And this message also feeds into the final battle of Andor. George originally wanted Wookiees instead of Ewoks. But regardless, whether it was Kashyyyk or in this case the forest moon of Andor, the battle represented community coming together to fight the Imperial machine. Lucas was inspired by the war in Vietnam, where a technologically superior force was resisted by local fighters using guerrilla tactics, ones that often included intimate knowledge of their environments. It's the idea of the underdog with heart, seemingly weak and unthreatening, but determined. To this day, Return of the Jedi remains one of my favourite Star Wars movies, and I love behind-the-scenes facts like this. But what do you guys think? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, my dear friends. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you, always.